Alright guys, we'll just do a normal voice
He's an
right now.
Australian guy.
Australian? Well, crikey, mate, that's a hit. You learn about absolute value today? No, I'd be awful if I said that. I'd be really annoying. So, understand, we talked about this. So if I'm at 0 and Garrett can go all the way over to here, how many units have I done? Thank you, Garrett. You sound like a girl. Alright, so the absolute value of 4 is 4. However, if I go from here over to the -2, what's the absolute value of -2? 2. Because it's always dealing with the positive distance from 0 to that number. Okay? That's the concept that you guys need to know when you're working through these problems. Now we're going to go back. Problem number 1. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what A is equal to, but I think on your paper it says A is equal to a -1 and C is equal to a 5. Now, this is the most important thing when you're setting things up. You need to plug in the numbers correctly before you solve it. I'm just letting you know, if you plug in the wrong numbers, you're going to get the wrong answer. Alright, so here we go. We're going to plug in the A value right here. And then what I want you to do is plug in the C value right here. And what do I like you guys to use when you're plugging in numbers for letters or variables? That's right, parentheses. So here we go. Absolute value of 5 times. I'm going to open up the big old parentheses. And what am I going to plug in there? -1. Then I'm going to say -7. I'm going to close the absolute value box. All right? Plus, open up the absolute value. 3 times, and for C I'm plugging in 5 -4 and close the absolute value. So hopefully you see that right here I plugged in a -1 and right here I plugged in my 5. So I'm going to make a little arrow so you can kind of, hopefully your brain can recognize the pattern of how to plug numbers in correctly. Now, I'm going to write a statement here, all right? You must evaluate everything inside the absolute value first. So all of this has to be evaluated first. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to do before we apply the absolute value. So evaluate everything inside that expression first. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 up. I'm going to make the absolute value box plus absolute value box. So let's look at this expression right here. This says 5 times -1 minus 7. Still have to do what? Order of operation, right? So 5 times -1 is -5. We have to subtract 7 from that. Over here, 3 times 5 gets us 15. We have to subtract 4 from that. Make sure, I'm going to go and pause for a second, make sure you guys get caught up. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to look at this right here. And what is -5 minus 7 more? What does that become? -12. Very good. Plus, now we have to evaluate 15 minus 4. Put that inside absolute value bars. That's an 11. Very good. Here, I'll make the arrow a little bit better there. There you guys are probably be kind of critical of me. It's not really printing perfectly yet. Alright. Once you have evaluated everything inside here, and once you have everything evaluated inside there, then and only then do you apply the absolute value. What is the absolute value of -12? 12. And what's the absolute value of 11? 11. You combine them together and you get Michael Jordan.
Oh my God.
Alright? Alright. If Michael Jordan was the number 23, which he was. I know he forgot. Probably not chilling. He's probably doing something. Alright? Alright, so the next problem we're going to do is problem number 3. Okay? It's going to be important to know what your C value is and also what your B value is. So I think we used 5 for C. On your paper, does it say what you have for B? What B is equal to on your paper? Negative 8. Okay, so negative 8. Now I'm going to highlight these because, like I said, the most important thing to start a problem is actually plugging things in correctly. All right? So I'm going to highlight the B, and I'm going to highlight the C, and now I'm going to rewrite things. I'm going to put negative 3 times 0.5, or 5/10, open up a parentheses, and for my C value, I'm going to plug in 2, close it, minus, open it, negative 0.5. I'm going to open up this parentheses, and what am I going to plug in for the B value? Negative 8. So that's the first thing I'd like you all to do. Get that all written down correctly in your journal, exactly as that appears. Now, remember, we have to evaluate everything inside the absolute value first. You have to do that first. When I say everything, I'm going to highlight what I'm talking about. All of this needs to be evaluated, and all of this needs to be evaluated before you do anything else. Okay? All right. So negative 3, open it up, minus, open it up. So right here, what do we have? We have 0.5, which is like half. What's like half of 5? So we're going to put 2.5. All right, so half of 5 is 2.5 plus 2. Over here we have a negative half times a negative 8. Those negatives are going to do what? What are those negatives going to do? Negative times a negative is a? Very good. So that's going to cancel out. So what's half of 8? Heck yeah. And I'll make it in different colors. All right. Now, we can combine these. We have negative 3 times the absolute value of, what's that added together? 4.5 minus, now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to evaluate this. What is the absolute value of a 4? 4. So right here, we're just going to put 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of a 4.5 is 4.5. So watch, we're going to say negative 3 times, because it's right next to it, okay, times 4.5 minus 4 more. So that just becomes a positive 4.5. We're going to multiply these together. Okay? And when you multiply those together, you get negative 13.5. We're going to take away 4 more. And our final answer. If you spent $13.50 and then you spent 4 more, what did you spend a total of? Right? So we spent, so negative 17.5. And that's your final answer for number 3. What I would like you all to do right now is do 2 and 4 on your own. And when you get an answer, check it with the person around you to see if they got the same answer you did. Okay? Okay, you guys look at problem number 5. Okay? We're basically we're trying to figure out what value of x, okay, that's what we're solving for, is going to make this statement true. But the number one thing you have to do first to start the problem is you must get the absolute value expression. Absolute value expression. And I'll highlight when I'm talking about the absolute value expression by itself. absolute value expression. We have to get that by itself, where it's just all alone. And right now it's not all alone. There's a pesky number hanging out right next to it that we need to say goodbye to. But what's happening with this negative 3? It's being what? It's being multiplied. So in order to get rid of something that's being multiplied, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to divide this side and this side by a negative 3. So we have to divide both sides by negative. That's how we did it. So divide by negative 3. That's what we did on both sides. So let's see what we have left. We have the absolute value of 4x minus 9 is equal to a negative 8. That's what we have left. Okay? Now, in your journal, if I said, right here, let's say this was the problem. What if I said the absolute value of x is equal to 8? If I said this was the problem we needed to solve, what number could I plug in there to make this equal to an 8? An 8 would work. So x could equal an 8. Is there another answer that could possibly work? I'm plugging in what? I could plug in an 8, and the absolute value of 8 is 8. Is there another number I could plug in that could also work? Negative 8. So technically, guess what? The answer is, to this problem, if this was the problem, the answer would be 8, and it could also be negative 8. Because what's the absolute value of negative 8? 8. So how would we write this as a solution set? We would write this as a set. This is, by the way, this is called a solution set. Okay? So if this is just an example problem, everybody. It's just an example problem. If I said what the absolute value of x equals 8, the solution set would be negative 8, comma 8. And the solution set bracket looks like this. All right? So I can draw better. I took my time. You kind of see that in the book. All right? Negative 8. Got to get used to drawing them. Got to get used to drawing solution sets. Okay? Now, this is where we have a problem. If I said the absolute value of a number equals negative 8, is there any number I could plug in there that could somehow make it a negative 8? There is no number in the universe that you could plug into this absolute value that is somehow equal to a negative 8. So here's what you do. You say, Mr. Booth, I'm going to write this thing called an empty set, which means there's no number. That's how you write an empty set. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll slightly up right here. What am I saying that this will eventually evaluate to? A negative 8. Can I even solve this? No. So since I can't solve it, stop. Don't do anything more. And your answer is simply an empty set. So the correct answer for number 5 is actually, once you start working